Please welcome to the stage Vice President of Government Affairs with Mark West Energy Partners, LP, Ohio Oil and Gas Association Executive Committee member and Business Session 2 moderator, Mr. David Callahan.
Time to wake up. Good afternoon, and welcome back, everyone. First to the stage this afternoon to provide a legislative update is our own Mr. Sean Bennett. Sean serves as Executive Vice President of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, having been elected to that position in December of 2014. Sean is the Chief Executive Officer of the association and its operations. He's the editor of the association's publications, an industry spokesperson for media outlets and other forums, and serves as public policy advocate in Columbus and Washington, D.C. on behalf of all the interests of OOGA and its members. Sean?
Oh, thank you, Dave. Ooh, hot mic. All right. Let's get started on a few issues. I know I have a very short amount of time here. Let's see if I can make this thing work. All right. This isn't my finest hour with this cue thing. Here we go. All right, sorry about that. Several items that we're going to cover in this presentation. Really, again, one of the major issues and items that comes up every 2 years is the budget bill. And House Bill 49 is this state's budget bill for fiscal years 2018 and 2019. Another item that I'd like to touch on, again, is sales tax clarification. This is something we worked on here last year, and we'll get into more detail. But ultimately, it was line item vetoed by the governor. We'll work to kind of see if we can get that clarification passed in this General Assembly. Those are some of the major items that we're dealing with here at the state level. Also, some of the federal issues, information collection requests, which I touched upon here earlier this morning, as well as the Endangered Species Act, is something that we're paying close attention to. And actually, we were just out in D.C. here earlier this week talking to members of the Ohio delegation on both of these issues moving forward. So, House Bill 49, it's Groundhog Day again. As you can see, we're not surprised. However, we're pretty calm. Severance tax is back. And, again, I think we all understand that severance tax, if it's not a budget bill, unless severance tax is included within that plan, we have continually defeated it every time it has been proposed. So, again, we were not surprised to see this come back once again. Largely remains the same as the last proposal in several instances. It's a severance tax, 6.5% on the wellhead crude oil and natural gas taken from the wellhead. If the gas is processed and natural gas comes out the tailgate, as well as any natural gas liquids that are processed at the plant, that is going to be taxed at a rate of 4.5%. However, while it says it's taxed at 6.5% and 4.5%, the prices are actually dictated by the tax commissioner. So while you may get a lower price for your crude or your natural gas, the tax commissioner will tell you how much you should have gotten, usually predicated on Henry Hub. So if you suffer from any negative basis, those will actually create your severance tax to increase in rate. Sales tax is one. Actually, I need to go back to severance tax. One new nuance to the severance tax this year. Historically, the severance tax increase has been applied to horizontal operators only. That is what they've been trying to do in the past. However, they have actually removed that, and now they're trying to apply it to the entire industry. So if you are a conventional operator, you will be taxed 6.5%, so there will no longer be 20 cents per barrel or 3 cents per MCF. So that is one change that we're seeing in this severance tax proposal. We have met with many, many members of the Ohio Senate and the Ohio House. We are very comfortable in our position there. We are confident that our message is getting through. We have not had a contentious meeting on this issue yet. So I think we firmly believe that this issue will be removed and continue to punt this issue down the line here for another budget, another few years. Sales tax increase, they look to increase rates from 5.75% to 6.25%. So any sales tax that you will be paying within the state will be increased. again, they're looking to use these revenues to generate an income tax reduction on the state income tax. Another item in there that they fit in there was, I think they realized that it was too hard. They wanted to extract severance tax from house gas, knowing that there are no meters that really can be used for house gas. It didn't make any sense to have that in there, so they exempted house gas from severance tax moving forward. And instead of having an idle and orphan well fund, again, current severance tax allocates 14% to the idle and orphan well program. Given current, I don't know, I would say current severance tax rates and production probably would be in the range of about $5 million. They're trying to go to a flat funding of $3 million for the idle and orphan well fund. So these are all items that we're working on and looking at in this state budget. Sales tax clarification, this is something that we worked an entire year on last year. As many operators know, the Department of Taxation began sending out auditors to the producers and as well as midstream facilities, narrowing or taking a different look at exemptions that applied to our industry in the past, creating a large tax bill for some operators who have been audited. Looking at the issue of it being fair, we essentially created an amendment that would say whatever is currently taxed, is currently taxable under the sales tax provision remains taxable, and anything that has been not taxed under the sales tax provision remain untaxed. We passed that bill through the House and the Senate last year in Senate Bill 235. Ultimately, it was line itemed by Governor Kasich, who said that the actual fix, which would have been a net neutral revenue, would have projected a lost revenue of $264 million, and that is something that we definitely do not agree with. So as we've continued to educate members of the General Assembly, we are beginning to meet with the Department of Taxation on this issue because we want to show them the work and show them how we came to our justification on a lot of the provisions. So, these are conversations that are ongoing. We're hoping to find a resolution on that soon, and hopefully they will see that it's not a contentious issue. It is merely a clarification of existing law. So again, we're working with House and Senate leadership. Like severance tax, I would say, again, the House and the Senate is even more on our side on this. Every member that we've talked to, literally every member we talked to, gets the issue, is on board with this issue. So that is very positive moving forward. There are several other items that have now been introduced and is beginning to be discussed in this new General Assembly. Senate Bill 30, this is a local road authority bill. It is sponsored by Senator Eklund out of Northern Ohio, Geauga area. And again, our industry, we have road use maintenance agreements for the drilling of wells, and some work okay, some are more troublesome. So what this bill would do is give the ability to authorize counties to adopt resolution regulating motor vehicle traffic on county and township roads. This issue stems from an aggregate operation up in Northern Ohio, and really, again, if you start applying it nation or statewide, you really bring in a lot of different entities. You bring in the manufacturers, you bring in the farmers, you bring in the aggregates, you bring in the pavement folks. Again, a very large coalition has formed to put a stop to this bill, urging caution on some of the provisions put forth. We have actually signed on to that bill as well. Again, we do not want to see the local road authority be expanded at all, because I think anybody who has gone through Aruma for a horizontal well, again, you also heard ideas of it being floated to being used on UIC wells, again, hauling brine or anything else regarding oil and gas, and this bill would essentially allow that to happen. Again, ODNR retains sole and exclusive authority to our industry. However, as it goes to other industries, we could see, some potential issues with that. So again, I think we're in a good position, especially with our coalition, on this issue as we move forward. Another bill that was just introduced here last week, co-sponsored by Representative Jack Serra out of the Bell area in Belmont County, and Brian Hill, Republican out of Zanesville. It did not create an increase in severance tax. However, they wanted to form the structure of the way that the severance tax was distributed. So Severance tax in their proposal, the revenue would flow first into the Idle and Orphan Well Fund, and then fund the regulatory program, and any additional severance tax revenues would go to local governments, fire departments, and a grant program for CNG. That is something that, if it was mainly something that was proposed by the Democrats, who are in the minority in the House right now, I don't know where the discussion would be. However, with a co-sponsor from the Republican side, it is something we're closely monitoring, and something that I'd say this industry and this association does not support. Other bills that we're seeing, talking about Groundhog Day, Senator Mike Skindell, probably the most liberal member of the Ohio Senate, not a fan of our industry. So every couple years, every General Assembly, he introduces his own bill to ban drilling in Lake Erie. However, he wants to put that moving forward. Again, this is an issue that since Governor Voinovich, there's always been an executive order banning that said practice. He just wants to put it in Ohio Revised Code. Senate Bill 50 is his banning of injection wells. So essentially what it would do was ban any disposal of brine in the state of Ohio, and also eliminating the UIC program in the state of Ohio. These bills, again, had sponsor testimony 2 weeks ago. I do not believe that these bills will move any further. They had primary sponsor testimony, and I really don't see that. However, when you start bringing up the conversation of injection wells, while we don't see those bills moving forward, it does create associated issues. It starts a conversation. It's a conversation that, it's very difficult for folks to understand. They understand oil and gas. They see the benefits of oil and gas. However, they don't recognize the importance of underground injection. So we will continue to have those conversations with the House and the Senate on both ones, more specifically on the bans of injection wells. For the federal issues, anybody who was paying close attention towards the end of the Obama administration, in November, the U.S. EPA created what was called an information collection request. Essentially what it was created a long, burdensome process for operators to collect any production numbers, any possible methane leakage, as well as a very long list of any pipelines that you do use. Essentially what it was to give the U.S. EPA more information to regulate the oil and gas industry. So while we were very concerned about that, I would say that was our top issue at the federal level here at the end of the year when we saw the Trump administration come in. And again, talking with the transition team, we voiced our oppositions and our concerns in regard to this, and encouraged our operators to get an extension as this new administration came in. And last week, new EPA Administrator Pruitt called for a permanent suspension of this collection request. So that is a good win for us, because again, as we're going through this downturn, a lot of people have laid off staff. Instead of focusing on tending our wells, they were trying to put everybody to focus on getting all this information collected. And again, which is the strange thing for Ohio, a lot of that information is actually housed at DNR. But they wanted us to submit it and go through the long process. Again, keeps us out of the field. Endangered Species Act is something that we are closely looking at. Again, environmental interests, and again, Endangered Species Act, in theory, I think it's something we can support. However, and this is a term that Penny and her offices have begun using, the Endangered Species Act has become weaponized. And the environmental interests continue to try and expand the species being covered. They're not using it to, again, save any species. They're using it to essentially thwart oil and gas development, other development, not just necessarily targeted to our industries. Not based on science, however, based upon a sue and settle practice. They essentially pancake a lot of species into a request. The EPA does not have enough time to get through those requests, or Fish and Wildlife does not have enough time to get through those requests. And so in order to not violate the law, they essentially settle, and they put these species on the threatened or endangered species list, creating a lot of issues for all industries. And right now we're facing this with the Indiana and northern long-eared bat. However, one that's new that we are participating on trying to pull back is the rusty-patched bumblebee, which is very prevalent in the state of Ohio, and it burrows in the ground, so you don't know where the habitat is. So essentially, if you turn dirt, you could be running into an issue of a takings on that. So that is something that we're continuing to work on. But the end result, what happens? Projects get delayed, potentially shut down due to the permitting windows. I think we've seen this with the Rover pipeline probably being the most recent example. It is the fact that if you are able to delay the permitting and whatnot, you are able to essentially put projects in jeopardy, and we cannot allow that to stand in the way of progress. With that, I have 17 seconds left, so I think I am on time here. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please find me around.